Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Sales Show. I'm here with Steve Knapp.
Hi everybody.
Okay, so this month we wanted to talk about growth management. Last month we covered a lot about business strategy and about how to get these sales within their business strategy when setting it up.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite important this time if we talk about growth management. Literally, like how to grow your business, grow the sales within your business, to develop, because every company wants to do that. Whether you're one person or whether you're a big company already, the idea is to get more sales. Yeah. You have to, because you're going to lose sales as well, so you're going to have to replace them as well. So every company needs to grow by getting more sales. So to you, what does that mean, first of all? What is growth management?
Yeah, hi, and for the fashion police, the button is undone.
Okay, you got told off last time, didn't you?
So it's undone. The only question today was whether it was collar up or collar down. But so we're running with this for fashion. But no, growth management to me, it's really interesting because it's a bit of a mindset thing, right? And it's about incorporating sales very much as being sort of the way to go. And we spoke in the last time. I think that you might actually be a photographer, you might be a carpenter, you might be a website designer, but if you're not making sales and you are not measuring, the impact and the effectiveness of your selling activities, you're really sort of missing quite a bit of what your business should be about. So, For a sales mindset, a growth management, it's about setting up your business and incorporating that into your daily activities. Sales is the heartbeat of any business, and it's been written, of course, by me. I think that if you have no sales, you ultimately have no customers. Ultimately, you have no business.
Okay. A lot of people out there, a lot of small businesses, will start thinking, well, sales just come naturally, organically. I just do a bit of networking and it comes out. That's my sales growth. That's not the case, though, isn't it? There needs to be a plan. Yeah.
Well, so there needs to be a plan. And I think when I hear that about growth management through referrals, I mean that's a sign to me that you've got great business, because actually if you are feeding your sales funnel through referrals, it means that you are that expert in your area, right? And it means that people are talking well of you, they trust you, your service is good, and therefore if you are running your business by referrals, they do say that a referral, you're 50% likely to convert a referral than you, and if you consider that to the likelihood of converting a cold call, it's enormously different. So if you are running your business on referrals, good on you. Don't change anything. That is magic. But if you're sort of a new business, you're starting out, you're building your reputation, you've got to start putting some framework around the targets that you have in your business and how you're going to go about your sales activity to get those, to actually grow, to get those sales in, right? So I always think one of the most important parts of anything when I'm looking at any company or trying to help anybody around growing sales is that first one. What's your target? What's your goal? And why do you need a goal? Why do you need a goal? Well, you need a goal because you've got to be measuring. You've got to be measuring the sort of hit rates of your sales. You've got to be measuring the income you're bringing in through sales, because you've got to be balancing the top coming in and balancing the profitability of your business.
So setting targets, forecasting as well, understanding what type of sales you're going to get in over the next month and period, all that needs to come into your growth plan.
Yeah, so, yes, growth management isn't just about feeding the top of your sales funnel. It is actually about creating, and I use the visual of a funnel here quite regularly, because actually it's about what you put in the top gives you confidence to what you're going to pull out down the bottom of your sales funnel. But the point you make is right. It also gives you a high level of confidence to forecast. So actually from a resources perspective, i.e. be that your time, be that taking on new clients so you can still ensure you deliver on your promises, that you're not necessarily overextending yourself as well. Because if you know that you're going to have a certain amount of fortune by bringing in new clients, and let's just say your business is serving clients, i.e. on a retainer or a monthly fee, you've got to know that you can actually serve them as well as grow your business, and that's where I think the balance is. So you've got to have targets, because it is about growth, and it is also about making sure you can forecast the resources that you need to deliver.
Okay, I'm very careful. I don't want to go too much into pipeline, because I realise we will talk about pipeline another time, but in terms of growing sales, those stuff that you need to put in your pipeline, how much do you have to understand your sector, the niche audience in which you need to be targeting?
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing here is you're really talking a bit about how do you identify the right prospect, and I think this comes down to prospect identification, right? And that all sounds very grand and big, but knowing where you win, knowing where you're more likely to win. So knowing from your past sales, what are those clients that you win more regularly? What sectors do they play in? And in that sector, are there segments within that sector that actually make you, that you're stronger at? And it might be that what you have is an expertise that's really niche, and then that nicheness means that you can start investing some time around prospect development, investing in prospect lists, investing your time cold calling and developing that work, because you know that your hit rate, and that's the amount of business you win, is higher when you identify the right prospects. And in that space as well, Chris, I think the important part is that you start to identify whether your offer is one that is general, or one that is sort of specialised. It is a real risk, isn't it, in some businesses, that what we have is we believe we are we're everything to everybody. But what I see in sales and what I see in growth management, from a conversion from prospect to order, is the more deliberate and the more specific you are about your offer and the segment that you operate in, the higher your hit rate, but actually the more effective you are at making money out of those opportunities, because you know intrinsically the value you bring.
But when you are looking at those as well, how much do you need to break down the way in which you communicate and target people, like across certain social media platforms and across print and across networking? Yeah. Does all that need to come in to your growth management?
Well, I mean, I watched something the other day, and the word, you probably know this word better than me, they said omnipresent, right? Omnipresent. And sales today is about being present in as many channels and as many mediums as you can be. But I think the key to really answering that question is knowing where your prospects play, right? Knowing where your prospects hang out, because that's where you should be targeting your activities. So no point going to a room we've used already 2 trades, a room of photographers to network or prospect if you're a carpenter. Right? I know it sounds a really stupid example, but sometimes the view of just spraying and praying.
But should there be an element of, testing different waters, testing different groups and different platforms? How much of that should come into it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a massively important thing, right? There's no silver bullet here. And you don't know necessarily what's the right approach initially. And we may have said before on these shows, the Sales Growth Club here, salesgrowthclub.com, didn't exist when I started my business. It was by going to different networking and talking through different channels and mediums that you realise that there is actually a place for skills presented in a different way for different people. So no, it isn't stick with one and stay with it. It's certainly push it, try it, develop it, but actually all the time be noting down what works, what doesn't work, and improving those pieces. It's really important.
And all that needs to go into your pipeline, doesn't it? And, analysing what goes in and what comes out, the niche being general, the sectors, everything can have a bit of play.
Yeah, and and it's where you invest your money, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you know what's going to work for you, that's when you have the confidence to invest your money.
I think as a small business, that's one thing that you really have to look for is how much money you have to spend on these strategies and on these areas. And you should spend your money on the ones that is going to work, on the customers, your target audience that works well for you. Yeah. And then anything left over is what you test with.
Well, you're right, and one of the ways you get the biggest bang for your buck here is about consistency, isn't it? And when you talk about growth management, we're talking about the most effective and efficient ways to bring sales into your company. And therefore there is quite a bit of this sort of reflection and taking time around, maybe we come to this in a bit, your self-development, but there is a really important step in your daily sales activities to stop and look back and find out what's working. Is it a process? Is it an investment? Is it your own skills? But if you're not doing that and you're not driving the most effective and efficient way to go after growth, then that probably manifests itself in quite a confused customer. Because a customer picks up very quickly if you're consistent, and growth management really helps you having a real plan around where your prospects operate, what your right prospects are, how you're going to go about approaching those, and then ultimately converting those is really important. But think about it from a customer journey, not just you as a business owner.
Well, one of the things that we do when we test new waters is we spend all our money and resources on what we know works, and we allow our recommendations to take us to different places. Mm-hmm. So instead of spending money trying to figure out new sectors, we allow our customers to recommend us to new areas, because that's free. Recommendations are free. Oh, yeah. And they'll know where what works well, for their customers and our customers. So we often allow that to happen to
I mean, we've already talked about the value of referrals, right? Yeah. Referrals, they say 50% of a lead that's a referral you're going to convert, because actually what you're not doing in that referral position is actually really selling. You're going on a reputation that somebody has presented, and testimonials work very, very similar. But one of the interesting things about testimonials is that people don't ask for them as often as you might think they do. So we talked about this in one of our Friday Sales Growth Club Facebook lives. Is it part of your sales process to ask for a testimonial? And when do you ask for it? Is it at the beginning as you're setting up? When I deliver this value to you, one of the things I'd like back from you is a testimonial and a reference that says this works. Why do you do that? I read a post on LinkedIn from somebody who said, "Look, I'm just going to play this back. I've already agreed to do business with this person because of the testimonial, and the testimonial came from somebody that I respected and trusted." So no, a big part of any growth strategy must be referrals, must be testimonials. But it's actually just asking and not forgetting to ask. In sales, I've got the order, right? Thanks very much, I'm off. We've all. I'm sure we've all been. I mean, I've been there. I've been there very, very often. You sort of the euphoria of winning the deal. But actually, the diligence to actually say, right, no, what am I going to do here? I'm going to ask for a referral, a testimonial. Maybe I'm going to look for a way to carve a follow-up meeting that is another product in my range, an upsell. So this whole thing about growth management is not also seeing your client as one sale, but seeing them as a potential to sell your range or the value in the range you have. Yeah.
And I suppose having that knowledge and making sure you do that way, you upsell them the products in the range, you get everyone into your pipeline, that comes down into owning your self-development to make sure this happens. Yeah. Making sure you've always got, you're developing yourself and understanding what you should be doing, taking on the referrals, taking on the growth, taking on the, you know, the additional product sales.
Yeah. And a really important part in any sales, it's anything you do, really, isn't it? I mean, it's about self-development. It's about continually looking and researching and investing and, you know, being curious all the time. And, you know, one of the things that I often observe in smaller businesses around sales is this investment in your product, your sector, your offer, your marketplace is really high, right? So you'll invest in going networking, you'll invest in going trade shows, you'll invest in your social presence, you'll invest in marketing campaigns, and all of these are really good things about growth management. You know, I would not discount any of those from your plan. But the one thing that I find gets missed in the majority is this: I'm going to develop my sales skills. Yeah, and I'm going to develop and I'm going to reflect and review my performance in my sales skills. And, you know, therefore, if you're not looking in your overall strategy of how am I going to grow yourself, you're missing a really important part there, right?
So how do you grow your sales skills?
Well, you can join the Sales Growth Club, and I'd love to help you. It's $24.99 a month. And there's huge value there, because actually what you get is you get access to me on a sort of coach basis, right?
Yeah.
So I use the example rather cheekily, but actually get access to people, thought leaders, get access to people that know what they're doing, and ask them questions and talk to them, and, you know what questions you want to ask. But, you know, really invest in getting, because you all know them in your networks, I'm sure. But, you know, just having those conversations, or finding the groups like the Sales Growth Club where you can formally join and take ownership of your own sales skills, i.e., I'm having trouble closing a deal. Can you help me?
I think that's what's unique about the Sales Growth Club, isn't it? The fact is that if someone wants to know how to do something, if they've got an idea how they think they should proceed with a sale, they can actually ask in the club, get an answer, and then go forwards with it to make sure that, you know, it's tried and tested.
Yeah, I mean, totally. We might not have all the answers, but we'll give a good go at sharing experiences and guiding in the right way. So find the right platform, find where people with similar problems, or where the experts are. That would be one. That would be one place. I mean, then there's all the other stuff that's out there. Your question about what do you do? I mean, webinars. I mean, those of you that are watching this live or watching this back, you're investing in your development, right? There'll be something in here over this 30 minutes. There'll be something that you'll go, yeah, that was useful. And therefore, you know, I've been on a couple of webinars recently, at Vanilla Soft, where we were talking about persistence in sales. This is all linked to growth management, right? This is all about making sure that you're doing the right number of calls and you're not giving in. So webinars, there's loads of them out there, and you can Google topics, and, you know, we're going to sort of be launching some webinars in the future as well around sales topics. So, you know, type down the bottom and let us know what you want to learn about, because, you know, we can focus those. So webinars are brilliant. Blogs, you know, big blogger. I do quite a bit of blogs. There's on my website, on LinkedIn, but actually there's that much out there. Some really good material out there. But all of that should be feeding, you know, where are your weaker areas, right? And there's that self-reflection piece again. You know, when I work with businesses, when I work with salespeople, we often find that where there are steps in the sales process that they're not strong. And we'll talk about that, I think, next TV show, Sales Execution, where we talk a little bit around the steps in the sales process. And whilst you might not feel you have a sales process, you probably do. And maybe we'll help you just sort of reflect on that a bit. But then, as you have a process, there are stages. And there will be stages where you are stronger and stages where you are not. So knowing where your weak spots are from a sales process perspective or a knowledge perspective.
A lot of people watching this are going to be small businesses, and we talk a lot about sales coaching and, you know, watching webinars and reading books. but there's so much out there. You know, should they be watching and reading about certain strategies or certain processes or certain products? Like, should they be watching how to use HubSpot or, you know, certain sales tools that they can use? Or is it more about the fundamentals? Is that where you'd start?
Well, so I my answer to this is more basic. It's actually just make the time to do it. You know, and a tactic that I use is I make an appointment with myself, right?
Yeah.
And that might sound a bit weird, but in my diary I write down appointment with Steve. And the reason I do that is because I then sit back and think and reflect about my skills. And I've said this all the way through my sort of working life when I was with Shell International. Anyone that ever worked for me, I said, I want to see you making appointments with yourself. Because technology and technologies are only additive. They're not actually the core of your knowledge. So I don't think there are any shortcuts. And growth management, and this is the subject here, is about growing your sales. And if you continually do what you've always done, you're going to get the answer you always get, right?
Yeah. Okay, and how do you make yourself accountable for learning? For everything, really?
Well, it's for everything, and I think more in this category, learning is a feeder into growth, right? It's a feeder into hitting your targets. Identifying the gap, close the gap through skills enhancing. So, I mean, I think there's driving accountability, and I think accountability is as relevant if you run a team, own a business, or like me, you do it for yourself. And making yourself accountable is actually, to me, is about increasing the visibility of your targets. So I don't know, Chris, whether you do this in your office, but you know, I have a little run rate chart. I have a set of traffic lights, and I like to keep myself visible. My performance visible by being able to track how I'm doing, and that's my accountability to myself every day. You know, maybe you do that, maybe you don't.
Yeah, no, we do make sure we're accountable. You know, we have traffic lights to make sure that, you know, we're on the right path. We have systems in place to see when we go off. We've got our pipeline. You know, so we have to make sure certain things come in the pipeline at a certain amount of times. And we just got targets.
Yeah.
You know, we make sure that we're always accountable. And the second that we step off, as a team, we come together. And when I say a team, I literally mean me and my wife.
Yeah.
There's a few more of us, but me and my wife are the ones that are kind of accountable to each other, because we're the ones that have to take, you know, the money home together. So we make sure we're both accountable.
And you know, I think this accountability, and also I think when you talk about you know, what means you can actually score something green instead of red, it's knowing what a good week looks like for you, right? So knowing, it goes back to the first point about setting targets. Are the targets meaningful? And therefore, if they're meaningful, that means that they're stretching. They're not easy, and therefore, you know, if you're making those targets, you know what a good week looks like. So if you get to the end of a week and it's been a good week, celebrate it. You know, that's a good way to keep yourself honest with your target setting. You know, be accountable, but celebrate those victories, celebrate those wins. But you have to do that by having meaningful targets. And we put some infographics, don't we, on the Sales Growth Club there about SMART. There are lots of ways of setting targets, but for me, you know, as a small business, SMART works: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Relevant and time-bound. Yeah.
I heard something the other day that said, if you think you're not going to reach your targets, don't bring them down. Never reduce your targets, work harder to get to them. Is that right?
If they're relevant, and I would say that's okay. I think as long as you're looking, if you're looking back to whether it's a process or a behaviour that is preventing you making those targets, and then you readjust. But there is an element where I would challenge that, is if you've set yourself a target and something outside of your control completely screws it up, right? So I remember once when I worked in Shell, I was told by my boss, I want you to go and convert 3 power stations to Shell lubricants. I said, right, that's my target. How many power stations are there in the UK? Well, at that time, there was a number. I can't remember what it was now. Let's just say 20. Out of those 20, how many are under contract? Okay, so out of that number that aren't under contract, how many are you going to go after? Then after, how many are you going to go after? One of them shut down. So sometimes within a target, there are things that happen outside of your control. But in your control, look to see if it's a process step that's not working, and look to see if it's a behaviour that you have that is influencing or change before you change the target.
But I suppose having a pipeline will help that, won't it? When things change and you think, oh, I'm not going to hit my targets this month or this week, you know, having a pipeline and seeing where else you can pick up that lag from will help.
Well, so knowing what a good week looks like is important.
Yep.
Knowing your targets is important, and tracking your performance against that is important, because if you've got all those three things, you're in control. You're in control. And you're being proactive versus reactive around growth management. So you're right. What you can do is you can initiate that email marketing campaign. You can increase your business networking attendance. You can look at whether you're going to go after, you know, special offers to drive throughput, whatever it is. But without those pieces, you could just be being reactive versus being proactive. And growth management is actually about you owning growth in your business versus just being lucky. Yeah.
Okay, so we've been through several key points, you know, setting meaningful targets.
Yeah.
And if you only just jumped on this halfway through, do go back and watch it, because at the beginning we do talk about setting meaningful targets and forecasting. How to identify and convert people, which includes your niche audience, and the sectors and where to find them. Taking ownership, which is massive, isn't it? You've got to take ownership
Got to do that.
of your self-development.
Totally.
You really have to. You know, webinars, read books, you know, join the Sales Growth Club.
Yeah, let's do that.
People are watching this now. They're about to jump off. What's the one thing they can do now, apart from join the Sales Growth Club?
I would say that again.
The salesgrowthclub.com. Join it to get access to Steve on a one-to-one and group basis.
Yeah.
But what's the one thing they can do now to help improve their knowledge around growing their sales?
Yeah, so I always say to people, you've got to first of all reflect about your own capabilities. Growth management and sales, you've got to first off appreciate that you are, whatever business you're in, you are selling. You know, and I think knowing that you are selling, you then know you need a sales process. You then need to know where you're good and where you're weak. Continually read. Continually connect yourself with people that know what they're doing, and just watch successful people in this space and learn. So this is all about identifying either your sales process or your sales skills. Set yourself meaningful targets, if you said, and just get out there and drive the growth.
Brilliant. So that's pretty much everything for this episode. We are going to be back next month, where we're going to be talking about sales execution.
We are indeed.
Which is my favourite. Sales execution, you know, where you execute their sales and you're actually going to see a result in that bottom line. Yeah,
so this is phrased by me. I call this when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
This is when you actually turn all of the preparation we've been talking about into sales calls and effective sales calls.
But they don't have to wait a month, do they? They can join the Sales Growth Club. We've talked about this a lot. We will keep talking about it because it's just an excellent club to be a part of. It is a club where you get access to on Facebook. Yeah. All you got to do is go to the salesgrowthclub.com, sign up there. We will link you into all the groups, and you get access to Steve on a one-to-one basis and other people in the group. Yeah. Last week we talked about cold calling, so we're helping everyone with cold calling.
We were. Yeah.
So
I was asked what's your favourite cold calling opening, and we might share that next time.
Okay, brilliant. We'll put it in the post actually. Yeah. You know, but that's it. That's everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching. We are going to place this on YouTube, onto Podbean as a podcast, and we will be running out clips within the month. So yeah, you can get your fill of the Ultimate Sales Growth TV show. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
again later.
Bye-bye.